Hey everyone, Norm from Tested here, wrapping up this week yet again with another model making project. I'm getting into the groove of building these models again, and today doing something a little bit different. It's going to be part show and tell, part new product unboxing, and then a model kit build I spent today doing. A little bit of my version of a one-day build. So, it's and the February, March is starting up, and in any normal year, we'd be starting up conventions, going on the pop culture convention circuit, something I really missed from last year, not going to San Diego Comic-Con, not going to New York Comic-Con. And one of my favorite things to do at those places is to meet up with some of my favorite toy manufacturers, collectibles manufacturers, but not to worry, even though we're not going to those conventions this month, I have been in touch with companies like Bandai, and in fact today they actually sent me one of their upcoming figures to take a first look at them. This is actually a right off the line production unit that I have to send back, but I thought it'd be great to check it out, show you what it's about, and then also gave me some inspiration to do a model kit build. So switching over to our close-up cam right now, this is a figure from the Bandai's movie realization line. Of course, it's from the Star Wars universe or inspired by the Star Wars universe, but it's their own kind of Japanese feudal Japan take on it, and part of their movie realization under the Tamashii Nations sub-brand of Bandai. And this one came out a couple years ago. It's one of my favorites. It's a stormtrooper who's also an archer, and I love the giant bow here. I love the hat. This is one of those things where I've actually seen a few people design some cosplay based off of this style of action figure, and it's just so impressive. Love the aesthetic of this. And they've built a whole universe of these characters, this feudal Japan take on the Star Wars universe. And so up for order right now and coming soon, I got a chance to take a look at the one based on the Mandalorian. It is the Ronin Mandalorian, and we're going to do a little bit of a kitchen show unboxing. I say kitchen show because I've already opened it up and checked out the pieces, but we'll get to see what it kind of looks like fresh out of the box. So taking the lid off, you of course have just some instructions, which we're not going to need. And then underneath the plastic packaging, you have the figure itself. The details here, I love. Like with every one of these sculpts, it's so fun to see how they like pull together what's familiar of the Star Wars universe. So in this case, it's got to be a take on that iconic Mandalorian helmet. They've done their version of Boba Fett. Now you have their take of the Mandalorian. And then the color scheme is right out of Mandalorian Season 1, right? So you have the pre-Beskar style of armor, where you have that the kind of scavenged pieces that Mando has from the stormtroopers in his universe. So you got bandolier, you got some nice, gauntlet guards here, the shoes, everything very much in that Japanese style. And then the helmet here, it looks a little bit like Shredder from Ninja Turtles. It is a little bit weathered. So you can see there's a little bit of that brown under the helmet here, and I'll give you guys a closer look. Yeah, so you can see they've done a wash of brown and a little bit of weathering, although I think it could use a little bit more weathering. And even the armor plates here, they have a little of that silver that's supposed to be the armor worn off. Articulation, I think, is going to be just in line with the articulation from the other figures. We get the pop-off hands, replaceable hands, and I'm actually going to pop these off now to get some of the other arms in place and show you some of the accessories. So very easy to pop those out. It does, of course, come with his short blade here with a scabbard, and that goes right into the belt. right there. And then we're going to put this version of the Mandalorian blaster. Again, the silhouette of the Bergman #1 that the TV show blaster is based on, but again, their own sculpt, their own take on it, with a little bit of extra wiring on the top. Almost, it's a little bit of almost like a steampunk look to it. Same with his pulse rifle here. It has that fork tip, which is the silhouette of that design, and the scope as well as the faux wooden stock here. But a lot of these rivets and the hammer here, that's all supposed to be era appropriate for this version of Mando. We'll zoom back out just a little bit. Posability is in line with all the other movie realization figures. So, you've got double jointed knees, they twist in all the right places, double jointed elbows, and good range of motion here. It's not quite mixed media. Everything is still plastic. The only thing that's not is this still synthetic cape. The cape, I think, could be replaced. It's a little bit rigid here. It doesn't quite flow that well, but I don't think it'd be too difficult to swap this out for something that drapes a little bit better. And it is kind of soft on top, but you see that synthetic weave, that plastickiness on the underside here. And these figures don't come with stands, so they just stand on their own, but because of how posable they are, they do very well on their own. And so for me, that's a great chance and opportunity, a cue to take some photos. And I didn't just want to take photos of this thing. I was inspired to build another diorama for. And so that's what I did today. We're going to put the packaging aside for a second. We're going to put Mando off to the side as well as this stand. And I'll show you the project that I spent today working on. So this is my take on the Star Wars movie realization, Japanese style diorama, and it is a Star Wars inspired dojo. Let me get the Mando figure back out, made for 12th scale, stands right there, and I could not be more pleased with how this turned out. It is, if you look at it, kind of this 3/4 diorama that I've taken a liking to in terms of the design, very much in line with structurally and the way the walls and the floorboard all come together in line with the dioramas I've built in the past using the glowforge, this time using their 1/8" plywood. And one of the things I wanted to do was not only capture this aesthetic, but also experiment with a little bit of mixed media. And something that I always try to do when I build these is find out where I can create some depth. Because even with the glowforge bed size, the material size of about 12, 13 inches by about 19 inches or so, that's not a lot of area to build a scene at 12th scale for about a 6.5-inch tall figure. And so I want to create foreground elements, I want to create some background elements, and in this case I created indoor and an outdoor part of the scene is what I sketched up initially. And so let me walk you through some of the attributes of this and things I'm very happy with. So the main floor here is just 1/8" walnut, and that's where I started off with the design. Sketching out, I knew I wanted kind of like a 2/3, 1/3 divvying between the indoor and the outdoor scene. And then for the indoor, this is very much in line with that kind of imperial hallway that I built last year, but instead of the translucent acrylic plastic for the imperial lights, hallway lights, here of course it's these shoji screens, and that's just some vellum, some kind of semi-opaque vellum that's spray glued and attached to the laser cut wood here. And one of the things I wanted to experiment this time around also were different thicknesses of materials. So to give it a little more of a real architectural look, so it's not kind of, everything doesn't just look like 1/8" plywood. And for that, I decided to add some artwork in the background. And so this frieze here is actually engraved veneer. I just found some great poster art that I like that I thought would be appropriate for the scene, processed it, etched it onto the veneer, which has the 3M backing, and then applied it as some artwork. And then same with the artwork in the back here. And having this wall in the front and then a wall in the back, even though it's just about 2 inches between them, gives a little bit of parallax, gives a little bit of depth, and gives different ways of me to light the scene as well. I also made use of some thicker woods. So glowforge sells the thicker 0.2 inch, fifth of an inch, not quite 1/4 inch ply, and by kind of inlaying that with some of the 1/8 inch ply, that allows me to have a little bit of this depth here as well for the molding around this main door and the molding around this door as well. It sticks out just a little bit subtle, but it catches or creates a shadow when I shine light on it that just makes it feel more like a real place in miniature scale. I really wanted to get a circular door here, not only because it's authentic to, this type of Japanese architecture, but also, if you recall, in the very first episode of The Mandalorian, when he walks into that bar for his first bounty, he goes through that door, that circular door, and so they have that shared architectural attribute. Also put some pillars out in front here, and this is something I had fun with designing. Super easy. I want to, again, not just have walls that interlock with each other. And so I created these little pylons that just slide together, and they fit very well. Compensated for the curve, put a little bit of super glue in, and then they stick through the bottom, which elevates the entire platform a little bit. Again, that I love how these dioramas, if I can get them to look like they're not just sitting on the table, but they're a little bit off of the table, I think that adds a lot to the scene. And so again, these are foreground elements, put them in the front here. Very happy with that. And then for the outdoor scene, I, again, knew that I wanted maybe a little bit of mixed media, something to not look just like laser cut wood. And so I thought, what could I do in terms of getting some foliage in here? And the real winner for this diorama is this tree here. This is a miniature fake bonsai tree that is plastic, completely plastic, that I bought for $12 online, and pulled it off of the base and the potted base that it came in, and then super glued it onto the wood here, and then hid the seams with some of this floral moss that Kate and I have used before in our past model making projects. Also sprinkled in some crushed nutshells, which look like gravel, and create this nice path in the front here. And then in the interest of, again, creating more depth, put a little bit of a pergola archway at the front here, just to tie the whole scene together. Oh, and then there's also one last element that I wanted to add, also to take advantage of the fact that I created this little hallway for the illusion of depth, and that's to have a little bit of an antagonist here. And all I did was cut a silhouette of another one of these figures, found some stock art, and cut this out, and then by pressing this against the vellum, against the shoji screen, and then putting a light behind it, it actually looks like it's the shadow of an assailant coming to hunt this Mando. And one of the things I really enjoy is that as I shine light around it, there's an opportunity to do some really interesting lighting, because I have both an indoor and an outdoor environment, so I can use maybe a cooler light, something at 5600 Kelvin to emulate moonlight from the back here, and then contrast that with warmer light on the interior to emulate maybe candlelight or lantern light. And then by having a mixture of warm and cool, I think that's going to create a really nice scene. So It's time then to pay all of this off. The whole reason to spend the whole day designing this in Illustrator, laser cutting this, and putting it together is to take pictures of this thing. So I'm going to take this diorama, get some of my other figures, and set up for a photo shoot. And let's see how it looks under the camera lens. So there you have it. That is this first look at this Mando Ronin figure from Bandai Tamashii Nations. Thank them for sending me the sample that I'm going to return back to them. And also an opportunity for me to build this really fun diorama. As always, I'll share links to where you can find materials for this build, the foliage, that miniature bonsai tree, as well as some of the files I created for this diorama if you want to make your own. Hope you enjoyed this little model making project and some of the photos. I'm really pleased with this. I think the figure looks great. Looks great now it has a place to live, and I'll be doing more of these model making projects and photography projects in the future. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you next time. Bye.